Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Manachari Yamunatira Manachari Jaya Rama Rama Javiyari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Manachari Yamunatira Manachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Go Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora. Vishnu God, Brahma, Supreme. Prabhupada ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajak Acharya Stoter Sutta Shri Srimati's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Haridas Thakur ki. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru, Sri Guranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Jnanatamandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandayam Sri Guru Sri Taparakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishubhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namaste Giriyajaya Shri Govardhana Namane Shesha Klesha Nashaya Parmanandadaine Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Matsangin Madguru Manmahadana Madnistaraka Madbhagya Marananda Namostite Asaru Saru Tadayin Atinito Chitakara Anamuncha Karachinmam Primna Hritkateo Sparaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nastapreshu Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Utamashloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna, dear ones. My humble obeisances. Good to see you all. So, continuing with the nectar, the beautiful nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, the answer to all problems. As Shukadeva Goswami says, Bhagavatam is the solution to all problems. If you're having a problem, you're in the right place. So we're here on chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'd like to welcome back Thomas to our Bhagavatam class. He was greatly missed. Sincerely. He was greatly missed. So last week we finished off the chapter 3, and we started chapter 4. We heard about the qualities of Shanaka. We heard about how he was elderly, how he was Kulapati, he was the head of the assembly. He was learned, and therefore he was qualified to congratulate the speaker, speaking on Vaishnava etiquette. We heard about the praises of Sutta Goswami. He's Mahabhagya, he's amazing speaker. Bhadatam Vara, amazing speaker, very fortunate, Mahabhagya. And we heard about the questions about the Bhagavatam. There were some questions asked to Shanika, to Sutta about the Bhagavatam. Anybody remember some of those questions? When, where, why? Yes. What inspired? In which yuga, at what place, and for what reason, by whose inspiration did Vyasadeva compile the Bhagavatam? Another question was asked about Shukadeva Goswami. So there were questions asked about Shukadeva Goswami, and it was described how he's a Mahayogi. He's an equal balanced monist. His mind is always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities. He was exposed, unexposed. He appeared ignorant. He appeared very ignorant. We spoke about how he walked around the naked girls, and the naked girls didn't take any notice of him because he was so innocent. Smile, Mohini. He was very innocent, and so none of the girls could even tell that he was, just an innocent boy.
And then when Vyasadeva walked by, they all put their clothes on, right? Because, Vyasadeva is also innocent. Because he was a grihastha, he had to make some distinction. So, anything else? He would stay at the door of a householder just long enough to milk a cow. Is this your last class, Mohini, before you leave?
No, I think I have 2 more.
They're gonna miss you in my class.
Oh, to Bulgaria.
Oh.
Permanently?
Practically, going for a whole yuga.
Yeah.
You can join yoga.
Obviously.
For a year.
And obviously.
For a whole year. It's okay. There's better devotees than myself there. Much better. So now we're at verse. Oh, then we heard about questions about Parikshit Maharaj. Anybody remember some of the questions about Parikshit Maharaj?
Well, was it how they met or the nature of the king or something?
Yeah, how they met. Yeah, exactly. Please explain the wonderful birth and activities of Parikshit Maharaj. How did he meet the Lord? Of course, he was a great emperor. He was increasing prestige. He was young and powerful. He possessed all opulences. Why did he give up everything to sit on the Ganges and fast until death? That was the big question. Omar. Omar's getting his contract with the Food Network. And so, yeah, a big important question. So we're hearing about the qualities of the hearer and the qualities of the speaker. These are the perfect qualities of both hearer and speaker. So if we want to really absorb Bhagavatam, we have to qualify ourselves as good hearers, right? The more we can become a proper hearer of Bhagavatam, then we can become more situated to do service to the Bhagavatam or to the Bhagavat. And that's what we're all about, right? We're all about devotional service. So your service is, to the degree we don't absorb ourselves in Bhagavatam, our ability to serve is diminished. Our ability to have compassion is diminished. We were talking last Krishna Ko about compassion, and I was thinking, compassion is not just the empathy, it's the ability to help someone and to act on that help. So if we don't have knowledge, we can't really help anybody. We bring them into Krishna consciousness sentimentally, but without the knowledge to help them be situated, then we can't help them as much. So the more we have knowledge, the more compassionate we can become. Therefore, God is the most compassionate because he's all powerful, right? So now we're on text number 14. Vyas was born. And this is going to be great. So someone can go ahead and read the text 4, chapter 4, text number 14.
Sutta vacha vapare samanuprakte tritye yuga paryaye jata parasharadyogi vasavyam kalayahare. Sutta Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parashara in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu.
This is interesting here, the purport. There's a chronological order of the 4 millenniums, namely Satya, Dwarpa, Treta, and Kali. But sometimes there is an overlapping. During the regime of Vaivashvata Manu, there was an overlapping of the 28th round of the 4 millenniums, and the 3rd millennium appeared prior to the 2nd millennium. That's interesting. But actually, the real order of yugas is Satya, Dwarpa, Treta, Kali. But in this particular cycle, it's different. Yes?
You know why they chose the English word millennium for yuga? Because millennium literally means 1,000, so it's not really inaccurate.
Well, the reason they chose it is because 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas go by to make one day of Brahma. So it's more like a divisionary term. Like there's 1,000 Maha Yugas in the day of Brahma.
Okay.
So I mean, it's definitely confusing to some degree, but that's the word 1,000 is related there. That there's 1,000 of those 4 cycles that go through in one day of Brahma. That's the only thing I can. In that particular millennium, Lord Sri Krishna also descends. We'll continue reading. The mother of the great sage Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu, fisherman, and the father was the great Parashamuni. That is the history of Vyasadev's birth. So this is interesting here that people should know that Satyavati is the father of Vyas. Actually, this is all a family thing. Vyasadeva and Shukadev, right, is the son of Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva is also related, is actually the grandfather of Arjuna. So actually, Shukadev and Parikshit Maharaj are related. There's a whole Mahabharata pastime there.
Oh, wait. Vyasadeva is the grandfather of Arjuna, and Parikshit is the grandson of Arjuna.
Yeah, so that would mean that Shukadev is like the uncle of Arjuna, of Parikshit Maharaj. Even though Shukadev's younger, it's a whole thing. Because I get a little confused. I have to look at the map. Like, King Vyasadeva was going to have children with the wives of King Shantanu Maharaj, who's the father of Bhishma, and then that line goes down until you get to Pandu and Dhritarashtra and so forth. And then one thing is that all the yugas are divided into three parts. The beginning is the Sadhya Rupa, which is 10%, which we're in right now. We're in the Sadhya Rupa, so we're in the kind of transitionary period. We're not actually fully in the Kali Yuga yet. We're in this transitionary period. There's still a little bit of Dwarpa hanging on. A little man looking good. And then there's the middle, which is the 80% of the Yuga. Then the end is the Sadhyamsha Rupa, which is where Krishna appears at the end of the Dwarpa Yuga. So Yuga is divided into three. There's the middle part, 80%, 10% on one side, 10% on the other side.
So it's like Lord Chaitanya appearing for.
Yep, he appears in the beginning of that that Yuga. Okay, I'll read this one. Sakarachit Saravatya Upaprishya Jalam Suji Vivikta Eka Asina Udite Ravimandale. Once upon a time, he, Vyasadeva, as the sun rose, took his morning ablution in the waters of the Saraswati and sat alone to concentrate. Next verse. Paravratagya Sarishi Kalene Yakta Ramasa Yugadharma Vyatikaram Praptam Bhuvi Yuge Yugre. The great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time. Jamuna, can you read part of the purport?
The great sages like Vyasadeva.
I said Jamuna.
Oh.
Arjuna.
I thought you said someone.
Oh, yeah. I can see why they sounded the same though. I'll say Arjuna next.
14.
Yeah.
16.
The great sages like Vyasadeva are liberated souls, and therefore they can see clearly past and futures. Thus he could see the future anomalies in the Kali age, and accordingly he made arrangement for the people in general so that they can execute a progressive life in this age, which is full of darkness. The people in general in this age of Kali are too much interested in matter, which is temporal. Because of ignorance, they are unable to evaluate the assets of life and be enlightened in spiritual knowledge.
I want to point this out here. This is a nice time to point this out, that we all have a debt to these sages. All of the saintly persons are so kind. They're thinking of us. When you really meditate on that, it should bring you to tears. And it's definitely brought me to tears many times when I meditate on Srila Prabhupada. He was thinking of us when he was crossing the ocean. And he was thinking of you. And that, the suffering that we're going to go through, that we're living in this. Can you imagine, for those who have been devotees for a long time, or can you imagine life without Krishna, Mohini? I remember when you weren't a devotee. Now you're a devotee. You're so happy. Can you imagine life without Krishna, Jamuna? You can't, because you've always been a devotee since birth. So it's so powerful, the compassion that these sages have. So Vyasa was thinking of us in the Kali Yuga, and he had that compassion. So how do we repay the compassion to Vyasadeva?
Pay it forward.
Secondary. Primarily, how do we actually, what's the best thing we can do? We read it. We read it. If you don't read it, then you can't pick up the compassion, right? It's like someone's handing you you're drowning in the ocean and someone's handing you a life vest and you're like, no, I'm good. Prabhupada's handing you a life vest. No, I'm good, man. I'm good for the Prabhupada. I don't gotta catch it, right? So that's the potency, is that actually Srila Prabhupada, as the representative of Vyas and all the devotees who are distributing books, they're handing a life raft in this knowledge. This knowledge will save you. It will save you. Every circumstance of life, you'll find, if you watch devotees' lives, you'll find that they're protected in every circumstance. They can have wonderful lives. They can really have a wonderful life, but only if they accept the mercy. The mercy is there. Lord Chaitanya is Namo Mahavandanyaya Krishna Prem Pradayate. Right? He's distributing Krishna Prem, but are we accepting the Krishna Prem? We have to also accept that mercy. And it's easy enough to accept. It just takes humility to accept it and then surrender. I'm going to take some time to read and learn and study, and then we can help others. So it's very, very powerful. So go to the next verse now. This is verse 17 and 18. Bhatikanam cha bhavanam shaktihara samchat cha tatkritam ashradanam nihi sattvam durmedan harisat yusha durbhagam cha janan viksha munir divyena chakshusha sarvavanashramanam yad dadyao hitam amogadrik. The great sage, who was fully equipped in knowledge, could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to the influence of the age. He could also see that the faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness. Thus he contemplated for the welfare of men in all statuses and orders of life. Arjuna, can you read a little of the purport?
Yeah. The unmanifested forces of time are so powerful that they reduce all matter to oblivion in due course. In Kali Yuga, the last millennium of around the 4 millenniums, the power of all material objects deteriorates by the influence of time. In this age, the duration of the material body of the people in general is much reduced, and so is the memory. The action of matter is also not so much insensate. The land does not produce food grains in the same proportions as it did in other ages. The cow does not give as much milk as it used to give formerly. The production of vegetables and fruits is less than before. As such, all living beings, both men and animals, do not have sumptuous, nourishing food due to want of so many necessities of life. Naturally, the duration of life is reduced, the memory is short, intelligence is meager, mutual dealings are full of hypocrisy, and so on.
Can you go to skip this paragraph and go to the next paragraph? There's a nice point there. All such
transcendentalists who are naturally devotees of the Lord are always eager to render welfare service to people in general. They are the real friends of the people in general, not the so-called public leaders who are unable to see what is going to happen 5 minutes ahead. In this age, the people in general are all well as their so-called leaders, and are all unlucky fellows, faithless in spiritual knowledge and influenced by the age of Kali. They are always disturbed by various diseases.
Okay, pause. You got the point there, huh? So the point here is that in Kali Yuga, it's dark time, right? That people are Shakti Hasam. They're decreased in bodily strength. They're Ashradanam. They're faithless. They're Nihasatvam. They're impatient due to lack of goodness. They're Drumedan. They're dull-witted. Harasita Ayusha, reduced in duration of life. And Durbagan, unlucky. And of course, the famous verse, Prayana Payusha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Janaha Mandasumanda Matayo Mandabagya Hipadritaha. O King, in this age of Kali, all people are but short-lived, quarrelsome, unlucky, lazy, and above all, always disturbed. Above all, always disturbed. So, not such a nice place, right? We can't deny that. We can't deny that people are quarrelsome, short-lived, unlucky, lazy, and always disturbed. That's just, people in Kali Yuga are like that. Find me someone who's not always disturbed. I wish. I wish. No, devotees are very much undisturbed, but relatively, but we're still, we're not pure devotees. We're trying to be pure devotees. So one of the symptoms of sadhana bhakti is kleshagni. So if you do the sadhana bhakti, just the basic practice, if you can chant Hare Krishna nicely, read and do some basic practice in kleshagni, you're free of material miseries to a very significant degree. And you become blessed. So if we're not free of material miseries, we should understand that we're not even really a sadhaka yet. Not even come to the stage of bhakti yet, any type of bhakti. That's why it impels us, that when you really do, that I'm going to do this chanting nicely. And this is really when it comes down, I'll make this point here that, like the chanting is everything, man. Really, it's everything. Like if you chant good japa, you're just like, Maya really doesn't hit you. She may hit you. She may attack you even harder, but you're not going to be affected. You'll feel so much peace in your heart from chanting good japa.
What's japa?
Chanting japa mala, Hare Krishna on beads. It means to chant silently, chant quietly. So that, if we neglect our chanting, it doesn't, do much. And actually, one thing I've noticed being in the Hare Krishna movement is that the most blissful devotees, the most powerful devotees, they have one thing in common. You know what that is?
You get their round sun.
They got good japa. That's it. That is the most common thing I've seen about devotees who are really amazing is they have good japa. I've seen devotees do so many things though, but if they don't have good japa, manda sumanda matayo manda bhagyahi padrita, always disturbed.
What is good japa versus bad japa?
Good japa is japa where you're avoiding offenses to the holy name, but basically in a quick form, when you are very attentive japa that I'm chanting with very much attention. Of course, there's always going to be some differences. Householders may have to adjust, it's not so easy. But anything we can do, like my personal program is I get up early to chant, although it was this morning, I was very sick. I didn't do anything. And so I didn't even go to any program this morning, believe it or not. I was really sick last night. But I feel better now. But yeah, there's to chant early and chant nicely, chant with attention. Those words, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That chanting, that sound vibration will cleanse and purify the heart, give you Shakti, bless you in every way, shape, and form. So that's the solution for this age. Okay, so we'll do 19 and 20 now. Text number 19. Chaturhotram karmashudam prajanam vikshavarikam yadadad yagya santatyai vedam ekam chaturvidam. We're going to read the translation.
He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which the people's occupation is to be purified. To simplify the process, he divided the one Veda into 4 in order to expand them among men.
Okay. So formerly there was only one Veda of the name Yajur, and the 4 divisions of sacrifice were specifically mentioned. But to make them more easily performable, the Veda was divided into 4. So then that's how we have 4 Vedas, right? What are the 4 Vedas? Yep.
Why did Yajur get to keep it the name?
Because that's like the primary yagyas are in there. Now let's read 20. Rigyaju samatar vakya vedash chatva udvitaha itihasa puranam cha panchamo veda uchyate. The 4 divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, but the historical facts and authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the 5th Veda. So in that way, there's 5 Vedas, counting the Puranas and Itihasyas. So an important point here, who here knows the difference between Shruti and Smriti?
One is remembered, right?
Yeah.
And the other one, they came straight from.
Yeah. it's important to understand the term that's used. There's Shruti and there's Smritis. So a Shruti Veda. This is why we say that the Vedas are exceptional. They're considered eternal because they're Shruti and they're Smriti. So sometimes we hear that all the scriptures are good. The Bible is good. The Quran is good. They're all good. They have some value, but they're not considered eternal Shastras because the Shruti mantras emanated from Krishna. The Shruti mantras emanated from Krishna. They're the breathing of Krishna, of Mahavishnu. And those Shruti mantras were not written down ever. They weren't written down until the Kali Yuga. Then they were written down to preserve them. Otherwise, the Shrutis were existing as student to disciple, oral tradition. And the Smritis are those Shrutis, but they're stories as observed by the Vedas. So the Bhagavatam is considered a Smriti, but it's a Smriti based off a Shruti. That Shruti is the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, the 4 primary verses of Bhagavatam which describe the absolute truth. That's when the Bhagavatam was first spoken by Krishna to Brahma, where he says, I'm the source of everything, beyond both the cause and the effect. I was there in the beginning, I am the middle, and at the end all that will remain is me. Whatever appears to be of value in this world, know it to be just an illusion if it's not connected to me. So Krishna is describing these 4 verses of the Bhagavatam. I'll get your question, Arjuna. I see you. And so, in that way, the 4 Vedas and the Puranas, Mahabharata, they are very transcendental. But the Vedas, they are considered Shruti mantras. Upanishads also Shruti mantras. The Puranas and the Mahabharata, Itihasyas, those are called Smriti mantras. Meaning they're remembered by the sages, spoken by the sages. And they're commentaries or supplementaries to the Vedas. Some people just accept the Vedas, but they're not accepting the Puranas. But actually the Puranas are more applicable to the sage, and we'll hear that. So this is a Bhakti Vaibhava test question here. The Rig Veda was given to Paliya Rishi, the Sama Veda was given to Jamini Rishi, the Yajur Veda was given to Vaishapayana Rishi, the Artha Veda was given to Samutu Muni Angira, and the Puranas were given to Ramaharshan. Who's Ramaharshan? That's a name we should be familiar with. We read the Krishna book. Ramaharshan Sutta. The Ramaharshan Sutta was the sage that the Puranas were given to, and right in the assembly of the sages, Ramaharshan Sutta was sitting on the Vyasasan, and someone walked in. Lord Balaram came in, and Ramaharshan Sutta did not stand up to greet Lord Balaram, and so Lord Balaram, in his classic unpredictable mood, decided to teach him a lesson with a piece of kusha grass, and he was killed by a piece of kusha grass. And then Lord Balaram was like, yeah, I'll bring him back. But then the sages were like, no, it was your will, so don't bring him back. But rather, they're going to give this knowledge to his son, and his son is Sutta Goswami. Ramaharshan Sutta is the father of Sutta Goswami. And he was, of course, killed by Lord Balaram. So,
I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu.
So the Puranas, or didn't Lord Chaitanya and his associates have to find the Bhagavatam? Like they had heard about it and had to find it, or was it?
That was the Brahma Samhita.
Oh, okay.
Lord Chaitanya found the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, and he found that in the Adikeshava temple in South India. And he also found the one of the books by, I forget the name of it, Govinda Gita by where's the name passing on my heart?
Was that Rupa Goswami?
No, Rupa Goswami is after Lord Chaitanya. The Govinda Gita is by.
Jai.
No, that's still in my mind. I don't know why. It's such. I should know it. Bimalamangala Thakur. Yeah. So, you had a question, Arjun?
I was wondering. They said it was written in the response to poet Jayadeva.
the idea. So I'm thinking of a different book that's not the Gita book. Something else.
Do you consider the Bible Shruti or Smriti?
I mean, we have to consider it Smriti, but it's not like an eternal Shastra in the sense that it's like the Vedas or the Puranas. Bible, it's a manifestation of modern Kali Yuga. It wasn't even around for 700 years until it's a modern creation. The Bhagavatam's always existed because these are the Lord's pastimes. The Lord's pastimes are eternal, right? Because they're connected with the Lord. So although there's elements of the Bible that are Bhagavatam in the broader sense of the word, we can't see that the however many books are in the Bible. Is it 73 books? We can't see that the 73 books in the Bible are, eternal Shastra in the same way that the Vedas, which disappear and reappear creation after creation, are.
They're so relative too to their time.
Yeah.
I mean, the Old Testament is written for a specific group of people at a specific time. And
Yeah.
even Christ, when he comes, says, "You heard it was said before. Now I'm giving you another way." So
Exactly.
Down to very, very specific.
Exactly, they're relative, and it's in direct opposite to that. The Bhagavad Gita is the most eternal Shastra of all. There's never a time when the Bhagavad Gita is not relevant. It is. I mean, I've been reading a lot of Bhagavatam since I've been, for like 7 months since I've been in Mayapur. Bhagavatam. And today I just read like an hour of Bhagavad Gita, and I was just like, wow, this never gets old. This never gets old. This Bhagavad Gita is so powerful. Just anything you're dealing with, pick up the Gita, read for a few minutes, you'll just see that, man, I was in so much Maya. So amazing. So, yeah. And there's a purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about the Bible and the Quran. Prabhupada calls them Yavana scriptures. And what's that?
Ominous?
Yavana.
Oh.
Yavana. Yavana means, in a sense, non-Vedic or uncivilized Shastras, because they are for the uncivilized. And even the meteors, Malecha, usually.
I thought you said that.
Yeah, he does say that in that purport. He says meteor, though. He does say that also. Come to think of it, but also in the Avisha Purana, there's mention of Jesus and Muhammad. So they have their place. Of course, Prabhupada gives a broader definition of the Bhagavatam. Once he was asked about Joan of Arc, and everybody knows who Joan of Arc is.
Noah's wife.
All
the Bible jokes.
That's a good one. Jimmy doesn't know who Joan of Arc is, huh? Omar?
Like somebody waved, they got all burned up or something.
That's, the end of the story. So she was a. You can tell the story, Thomas, better than me, probably.
I don't know. She's a 15th century saint. She was French, and she started getting visions about God calling her to a war, basically, to kind of right a political situation. So she had visions, but she was like a very simple maiden. But she put on, she became a soldier and led an entire army.
She went and conquered England.
And then after that, people kind of turned on her. The religious leaders over time turned on her, and she was considered to be not giving these messages from demons, and so she was burned.
Yeah.
And then she later was declared a saint, but at the time the religious leaders didn't.
So Prabhupada was asked about Joan of Arc. Thank you. Prabhupada was asked about Joan of Arc, and he said, well, if it's between God and God's devotee, that is Bhagavatam. So in that sense, we hear Jesus and the Bible, the story of Jesus in the Bible, that's Bhagavatam. And we hear about Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, that's also Bhagavatam. We hear about Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's also Bhagavatam. The broader definition of Bhagavatam.
What is the word Bhagavatam mean?
Bhagavatam is the beautiful pastimes of the Lord and his devotees.
That's what the word Bhagavatam is.
Or as I know it translated as, pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. Srimad means beautiful. Or the beautiful activities of God, that's what Srimad Bhagavatam means. And his devotees. Because there's no God without his devotees. And therefore the word Bhagavat means devotee. And we know there's a book Bhagavat and a person Bhagavat. Persons Bhagavats. which in the sense that, like we hear that in the Bible also, that the word became flesh. That's a person Bhagavat. So Srila Prabhupada is also a person Bhagavat, right? The more I read Bhagavatam, you just realize how Prabhupada is the quintessential. Everything he embodies is Bhagavatam. He embodies this book so perfectly. It's unbelievable, actually. He's a real person Bhagavat.
I was thinking today as I was reading this, how that mood of Vyasadeva and then later the mood of the sages is the mood that Prabhupada picked up. It's just compassion for the whole world that's in this Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
So it's bringing transcendental knowledge, the solution.
Yeah, these sages are the most compassionate. They're ultimately the most karuna, oceans of mercy. We sing every morning, Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu, Adamajanara Bandhu, Lokanath Lokera Jivana. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu, oh, spiritual master, ocean of mercy, friend of the fallen. Distributing mercy to the whole world. So in that way, Prabhupada took up that mood. That's our disciplic succession. That's also a sign that we should take up that mood. That's the point here. That's very strongly demonstrated is that, we all want to, we can all acknowledge Prabhupada as the preeminent Acharya, savior of everybody. But what to speak of all the devotees who dedicated everything to Prabhupada and took immense risk to spread Krishna consciousness, immense risk. Some of them were killed, right? Soviet devotees going to gulags, going to Siberia, spreading Krishna consciousness in all kinds of places. Andrew Jumna Swami, so many amazing stories. So, Amrita Maharaj has so many amazing stories, spreading Krishna consciousness in dangerous positions. These are also Bhagavats, following in that mood, the compassion. So, that compassion, we have to do what we can do. We're chanting Hare Krishna to develop that compassion. That if we have knowledge, if we don't give it, that's considered violence. And that's really how you taste the Krishna consciousness. That's what really separates those who are getting a lot of taste from those who are not getting so much taste. Is when I start thinking, how am I going to serve my guru and serve his mission? We don't have to be any type of ashram situation. Doesn't make a difference. Grihastha, I know grihasthas who are spreading Krishna consciousness like wildfire. My godbrother Krishna Charan Prabhu, so fully absorbed. But you have to get out of your own head to do that. He's fully absorbed. He does not mess around. He reads, he chants, he worships his deities, he works, he does programs. That's his life. He's a surrendered soul. And so in that way, we develop that mood. I remember just when I was a new bhakta, I was just freshly initiated. And I was thinking, I want to do something for my guru. And Krishna gave me the idea, what if we did a program in Sedona? I got that thought, what if we do a program in Sedona? And I emailed the lady I knew up there. She has a restaurant, kind of new agey. I said, we can do a program there. And she said, yeah, we'd love it. We'd love to have you. And then I remember we didn't have a place to stay. There were so many things. And my Gurudev got to stay at the T-shirt factory, which there was in Sedona. One devotee has a T-shirt factory up there. Jamuna having to live there for 10, 11 years of your life. Yeah. She was raised in a T-shirt factory. So I didn't want my Gurudev to stay there. And you can still, if you go to that T-shirt factory, you can still see the hieroglyphs of Jamuna and Prajumna's hieroglyphs all over the wall.
Drawings from when they were kids?
Yeah.
Wow. They'll be a holy side someday.
Some saint will find it.
Yeah.
Found the lost writings of.
You can still see that. You can still see those hieroglyphs in the back room. So anyhow, yeah, I didn't want my Gurudev to stay there because it's kind of an intense place. And Lakshmi comes really loud. And so I was thinking, well, I got to find a place for my Guru to stay. So I prayed to Gauranitai, and within seconds of praying to Gauranitai, everything found place. Not only did he have a place to stay, he had another program to do at a Mayavadi ashram, which has since been gone. But Bhagavatam's power. But but after that program, Gurudev was so pleased. He blessed me. He gave me a blessing, and it was such a real profound thing. Gurudev was so pleased. He blessed me, and I felt that blessing still to this day. I feel that single act of service I did and arranged myself has propelled me in all my Krishna consciousness, and proportionate blessings after that have come. But if you please the Guru, if you please the representative of Krishna, then everything's available by pleasing his mission. That's what's most pleasing, the Vani. And in a similar way, Mother Sundamani also has given me immense blessings, so much blessings that I feel are working very powerfully to this day and to this very moment. So, when we take up that mission, like Prabhu has brought up the fact that Prabhupada was taking the mission of Vyasadeva, which is the mission of Narada Muni, which is the mission of all the acharyas. And the most important verse in the Vedas, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta confirms that this verse is the most important verse. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata devi tatagaro tasyarte katita yarta prakasanta mahatmanaha. One who has implicit faith in the instructions of the Lord, the Supreme Lord, and in the spiritual master, to him all the imports of Vedic knowledge are completely revealed. To him all the imports of Vedic knowledge are completely revealed. So when you wonder how someone can give a class, how they can be so good at some type of service, that's because they have faith in their Guru, which is the only thing any of us can have. It's definitely the only thing I have, is that I just have faith in my Guru, because my Guru is representing Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is representing Krishna. That's it. Because Prabhupada represents Krishna, having faith in Prabhupada's words, in the Guru's words, that's faith in Krishna's words. If you have that, you can do anything. There's nothing you can't do. And that's how you actually see. Like, that's how you live a wonderful life. That's the spiritual secret. Living a wonderful life is that, it's actually Krishna will take your breath away every day. That's the power of it. So, yeah, because there's always people to talk to. Text number 22. We're on 22, right?
21.
We're on 21? Okay. Okay, I'll just read this in English. After the Vedas were divided into 4 divisions, Paliya Rishi became the professor of the Rig Veda, Jamini the professor of the Samaveda. Vaishampayana alone became the glorified by the Yajurveda. 22. The Samantu Muni, Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with the Arva Veda. And my father, Romaharshan, was entrusted with the Puranas and historical records. Of course, Romaharshan Sutta was killed by a blade of grass at the hands of Lord Balaram. Now we're at text number 23. Let me see here. I'll just read the translation. All these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples, and thus the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. The original source of knowledge is the Vedas. Purport. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. So it's important to understand that the Vedas, they contain everything. They contain warfare activity, they contain medicine, they contain all spiritual activities. They even contain technological. Hear about Maya Danava and so many things. They have simply been developed into different branches. And it's a fact that all the great physicists, Oppenheimer and Einstein, all these Bohr, they were all reading the Vedas. At that time, there was a very big interest. Isaac Newton. Many of these ideas are coming from there.
I wonder, is there a large language model that's been trained on the Vedas?
What's that?
Is there an AI guru yet that's been trained on all the Vedas?
There's so many people trying to make AI gurus about the Vedas.
Sanskrit, scientists are trying to use it as a computer language because it's such a logical language.
Two AI gurus are in front of us right now. Omar's developing and Arjun Sarth. No, that doesn't work so well though, actually, because it doesn't, it's not the words, it's actually the person presenting the words. I can speak the Bhagavata. If you're getting anything out of this class, it's because I'm living my Guru's mercy is coming through. You can't just, there has to be transcendental spiritual Shakti there. In fact, That, like if you can know everything in the Vedas, but if you don't have bhakti, there's nothing. But if you have bhakti, you have everything. Tvaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harir bhajana pakvo tapatet tato yadi yatrakvavabhadramabudamusyakim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmata. Even if one abandons everything to engage in the service of the Lord, but due to immaturity falls down, there was no loss. But if one does everything perfect in the Vedas, but doesn't develop loving service to the Lord, there was no gain. In a similar way, Krishna says, that I am the knower of the Vedas, I am the compiler of the Vedas, and I am the goal of the Vedas. So if you know Krishna, what need is there for the Vedas? There is actually no need. And the Bhagavatam is the incarnation of Krishna. Therefore, that's why it says that what need is there any other scripture than this? Maha Munikrita Kimba Pararishvaraha. What need is there for any other scripture? Vedyam Vastavam Atravastu Shivanam Tapatrayon Mulanam Maha Munikrita Kimba Pararishvaraha. No need for any other scripture. Because the goal is there. The goal is God. Therefore, Krishna says, Sarvadharman Pritya Jamamekam Sharanam Prasad. Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me.
So it would just be useful for people who already know the juice, just to remind them of what a lesson.
Krishna says, actually, abandon the flowery words of the Vedas. They're bewildering. Most of them are for sense gratification. We'll see, actually. We're going to get to next chapter. We're going to get to all of this. Narada Muni is going to come and chastise Vyasadeva for writing the Vedas. Yeah.
So why don't some people believe in Puranas, or what's their argument against the Puranas?
Well, they're pretty fantastical. They sound pretty fantastic. Well, there's so many different people. Sometimes they say there's different theories. One theory is that the British people, they came up with this theory that actually the British and the Europeans wrote the Puranas. They came up with a theory like that after the Bible. And then they went to India and left it there. It's really ridiculous. But that was at that time they wanted to, diminish the Indian people because they couldn't have something more sophisticated in the Bible.
So that Aryan theory is that the Europeans come and give all the wisdom and then,
which is actually the opposite is true. According to the Bhagavatam, the opposite is true. From Bharat, all those people came. You headed out, Jamuna? School is over? Okay, so next week you can stay as late as necessary. So, in that way, what'd you say, Thomas?
Oh, we were just saying that Hitler, that's where he got like the swastika and
all that stuff is all inverted.
Converted the term Aryan to mean a pure race of Germanic.
Of course, Aryan people are described as fair-skinned, but not fair-skinned in the sense of like Germanic people.
And there's no proof that white people, European people are descendants of the Aryans.
No, the Aryans and the purposes they're golden, very golden skinned. But actually, Aryan means follower of the Vedas. More importantly, Aryan races are those races which are following the Vedas. Prabhupada calls that in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam of Bhagavad Gita.
What does Arya mean? Civilization?
So civilized people. Arya means the civilized class of people. And that's what Hitler, we hear the Aryan Brotherhood, they think they're civilized because they're based on bodily designation. They're not civilized. Actually, in fact, many of the European races are coming from uncivilized races in India that were ran out by Lord Parshuram.
How many Puranas are Puranas?
18 Puranas.
18.
18
Total
major
or-
Puranas.
Oh,
18 major Puranas, yeah.
major and a whole bunch of minor.
Yeah, but there's 6 Puranas in the mode of goodness, 6 Puranas in the mode of passion, and 6 Puranas in the mode of ignorance.
And they're named after gods, it looks like.
Yeah.
Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Bhagavata.
Which is the David Mahatmya.
What's that?
The David Mahatmya.
Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know that the Bhagavat Purana, the Vishnu Purana and the Padma Purana are prominent in our line, but the Bhagavat Purana is ultimately the end of all the Vedas. It is the supreme. It's the cream. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dharma Gyani Visaha Kalanasta Sameka Purano Kodinodipa. The cream of all the Vedas is the Bhagavatam. It's the most important because it's completely rejecting Dharma Projita Kaitavotar Paramo Nirmat Sarnam Satam. It's completely rejecting all those religious practices which are materially motivated. And therefore, we're going to hear this next chapter is going to basically focus on that. Basically going to focus on why the Bhagavatam is so powerful. Because Narada Muni, he says, what do you say? He says, Nayad vachas chitram paramhara yasho jagat pravitam paganita kari chit tadvayasam tirdamushanti manasa nayat rahamsa niramat nishikshayaha. He says that those literatures which do not describe the Yad Vachas Chitram Padam Harayasho, which don't describe the lotus feet of Hari, are which are in themselves capable of purifying the entire universe. Pavitam Pragrita Karichit. Jagat Pavitam. They can purify the whole Jagat, the whole universe. They're considered by saintly people Tadvayasam Tirdam to be places of pilgrimage for crows. The analogy is that crows, they go to the garbage. You ever see crows in, beautiful, cool lakes of water? No, they're always by garbage. They're places of pilgrimage for crows because they're not full of the descriptions of the Lord. And therefore, Nayatra Hamsa Niramat Yishikshayaha, saintly people do not delight in them. On the other hand, Tadvaj Vishargo Janadaga Viplavo Yasmin Pratishloka Mabadavya Yipi Namanyantas Yason Kintani Yat Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinati Sadavaha. On the other hand, those literatures which are full of the descriptions of the fame, form, pastimes, and paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are of another creation altogether, because they are, even though they're imperfectly composed, Atra Sargo, Visarga, even though they're imperfectly, no, not that, wrong line. Tadvaj Vishargo, even though they're Visharga, they're not perfectly composed. Still, they're accepted, they're heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. They're heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest, which is an important point to make here, that the Bhagavatam makes a distinction between what is seen by the senses, what is accepted as logical by mundane men, and what is accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Purified means their senses are purified. So saintly people accept the Bhagavatam. Great authorities like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Madhva Acharya, Narada Muni, they're accepting the Srimad Bhagavatam because they have a higher, broader vision in terms of character. All the great saints, the Goswamis, they read every scripture. But they've come to the same conclusion, the Bhagavatam. Madeka Bandho Mat Sangin, Madgura Man Mahadana, Mad Nistaraka Mad Bhagya, Madananda Namostate. The Bhagavatam is our greatest friend, constant companion, spiritual master, greatest wealth. It's our deliverer. It's our greatest fortune. It's our source of ecstasy. They've come to that conclusion. So the result of reading such books is the character of the people rather than what we would perceive as relative truth. We can say that science is the actual truth. Can't you see we can prove it by science? What is the result in terms of human society? What is the result of following science? There's no good results. We haven't finding a good result. That human society is suffering more than ever. I'll get you. But in complete opposition to that, the Bhagavatam is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Therefore, we're following saintly people and becoming like saintly people, becoming like these great saints and sages. And therefore, that verse says, the manyantas yasya kintaniyat, that it's actually meant to bring about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. So this is a chastisement, and we'll get into this next chapters where we'll hear about it. But these verses I'm quoting here are a chastisement. Narada Muni is actually chastising his disciple Vyasadeva for writing the Vedas, for giving people all these things. He's saying, you've given people all this stuff, but you've not given them the essence of Krishna's pastimes, the essence of knowing the Supreme Lord. And therefore, they're going to become attracted to material things. So most of the Vedas are dealing with how to get material satisfaction.
The crow books.
Crow books? Yeah, crow books, yeah. There's so many crow books, and everything's a crow book now. Arjuna had something, then Thomas had something.
I was gonna talk about like the Puranas and like, your question, because I have some questions kind of like based off of that too.
Okay.
But a lot of academics, like, and like who is saying English people, they do like doubt the authenticity of the Puranas because there is so much textual variation in different regions. Like Prabhupada went through great lengths to find like what we consider to be the like true and accurate Bhagavatam, and there's many other variations that tell the stories differently and like contain or are missing certain information. And so academics use this and say that this goes to show you how fluid the faith is and how like it has evolved over time based on what's going on in the world. And they think that verses like the one like prophesying Buddha, for example, was like added, after Buddha to.
These are just speculations.
Yeah.
They're all speculations because they don't want to accept these truths. But the point remains the same. What is the result of reading Bhagavatam? What is the result of reading Bhagavatam? Shru Shrushro Shradanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchihi Syanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirthanashevanat. That if you do service to the Bhagavat by hearing Bhagavatam, you develop a taste for hearing Krishna's pastimes. And therefore, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidanoti Sarit Satam. My regular Kri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everybody's heart, cleanses the desire of the truthful devotee who has developed an urge, a desire to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So when you hear about Krishna, it purifies your heart. That's a fact. Try to prove that wrong. You can't prove that one wrong because we've seen the Krishna consciousness movement. I've seen that just by someone coming to Bhagavatam class and hearing Bhagavatam class, all the things in their heart are purified. Meat eating goes away. Intoxication goes away. Troubles in the mind go away. This is the power of Bhagavatam. It's not that anything else but the Bhagavatam. Our association is based on Bhagavatam. And we know the power of this book. So that's one way of arguing. Another way of arguing is that these scientists, they come up with so many, they say the Bhagavad Gita is not 5,000 years old, but amongst so many other scholars, it's accepted as 5,000 years old. But they don't want to accept that. We have our dearly beloved Dhrutakama Prabhu, who wrote Forbidden Archaeology, pretty much proving that human history is much, much older than what we think it is. So in that way, the Puranas are accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest, not some rascal scientists who have no purification. They have no purification whatsoever. So that's the truth.
So I was going to say too that Krishna, like he says in the Bhagavad Gita, when someone wants to worship some other divine god or some other path, he makes their faith strong so that they can follow it. So if like that's what someone's wanting to see, and these academics in their Puranas, then Krishna, we're in Maya for a reason. He will let them think that, and he will give them confirmation bias.
It's generally a scientific fact that the Vedic culture is 5,000 years old.
The earliest manuscripts we can find are at least 3,000 to 4,000 years old, and it's a well-known fact that no one disputes at all that the oral tradition extended thousands of years before that.
Yeah.
But also the scientists, when people talk about science and proving this or that, they actually do not understand science because the true scientists would never use the word prove. Science does not prove anything. Science only has theories and hypotheses that can be tested, and things can be disproven, and we can get closer to the truth but you never actually can prove anything or reach
And
the truth through science.
in terms of Bhagavatam also, like these stories are happening again and again. One aspect is that. And another aspect is that like spiritual experiences cannot be there's a result of purification in spiritual experience. It's a result of our purifying experience. So if we purify our senses, then we can perceive these truths. We can actually see Krishna's pastimes. We can see we can experience Krishna in so many ways if we purify ourselves more and more. But you can't, if you're not purified, you can't perceive. If they're so in the mode of passion and ignorance, how can they perceive? Krishna covers them over, which he confirms himself. He says this many times. He says, Mayada, what is it? Avajananti mamura manusim tanmashrita. What is it? Avajananti mamura manusim tanmashrita. Parambhavamajananta mamabuta maheshvara. That, those who are fools deriving when I descend in human form because they don't understand my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. You quoted the other verse, really good.
I never manifested full shine intelligence for them. I am covered by my eternal promise, and therefore they do not know that I'm unborn and infallible.
Exactly. Say that one slower though.
What?
Internal focus.
Slow it down.
I've never manifested full shine intelligence. For them, I'm covered by my eternal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible.
Powerful. Thomas had something to say.
Well, I was just going to say, if anyone's not listened to Radhika Raman's, he did a two-part at ISB on the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam, a two-part talk. And he goes through all these academic issues. And it's quite amazing. Like the Padma Purana glorifies the Srimad Bhagavatam as the greatest of the 18 Puranas.
Yeah, so many Puranas do.
And then he walks through like all the, how he studied the Puranas, and there's just no equal in terms of the manuscript preservation, the language is so much more elevated, the clarity. Anyway, if you just type into YouTube glories of the Bhagavatam, Radhika Raman, he was the youngest person to ever get a degree from Oxford. Graduated from high school when he was 14. He's a really amazing scholar, so it's a great class.
I mean, accepted, heard, and sung by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Yeah, I mean, what you say is the most important thing, even above the academics, is the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
This text changes you when you read it, so that's how you know.
It's a fact beyond what our sense perception tells us.
So good.
Our sense perception is not the all in all. So we'll finish. We're going to go into a new section. 20. I was wanting to finish the chapter tonight, but we had good discussion. We'll finish the chapter next week briefly, and then we'll go into chapter 5, which is one of my favorite chapters in the first canto. Very powerful chapter. So we'll read 24 and 25. 24, the great sage Vyas, who is very kind to ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so that they may be assimilated by less intellectual men. 25. Very important here. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice-born. So, therefore, he's saying that because in Kali Yuga, the Brahmin class and the Kshatriya class basically go extinct. So the Sudra class, Vaishya class, women class, and the Dvija Bandhu class, the lower level Brahmins, they are unable to comprehend the Vedas. So we hear a lot of these mundane scholars like me and Omar talking to our good friend who's really into he's thinking he's into Vedanta, but he has no knowledge of Vedanta because they think they can understand the Upanishads, the Vedas, but they can't understand. Because we're conditioned in a lower level. So therefore, the proper scriptures for this age are the Mahabharata, are the Puranas. We're seeing by example and by story, rather than trying to understand these Shruti mantras, which are very complex.
Mahabharata is not a Purana, though, right?
No, it's called an Itihasya, it's a history.
It's considered by some an Upanishad.
Well, the certain aspects are Upanishadic, like the Gita. The Gita Upanishad. The Gita is an Upanishad, but not the Mahabharata isn't in itself an Upanishad.
It is considered an epic poem.
Yeah, it's the greatest
It's the
poem.
longest one in the world.
Greatest poem ever. Longest poem of all time.
There's Upanishads, there's Vedas, there's Puranas, and then there's the Mahabharata.
The
Yeah.
epics. You could call
Then
them
there's
epics. They're
also the
Ramayana.
Brahma Sutra. There's the Samhitas. There's the so many things.
What about the Ramayana? Where is that?
It's also considered Itihasa. Yeah. But yeah, there's the four Vedas. There's the Upanishads. There's the Brahma Sutra. There's actually Kirtan Yagya. He gives a nice class. He gives a nice workshop on all the different Vedic scriptures, the Samhitas, what they all mean. Of course, our focus is, Srimad Bhagavatam. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is also bona
What are
fide
the
scripture.
different Gitas considered?
Well, Gita means songs. There's different Gita. Just anything is a Gita.
Just different songs.
Yeah, like the Gita is anything could be called a Gita song. Gita just means song. So yeah, there can be mundane Gitas too. Bhagavad Gita means the song of the Bhagavan, song of God. So in that way, the Bhagavad Gita is but there's the Uddhava Gita, which is the song sung to Uddhava. You had something to say? So
You read all the Vedas? They're so.
you go lifetimes. There's sometimes I've heard it takes 4 lifetimes to read all the Vedas.
How many are there? I mean, thousands.
4 lifetimes worth.
There's 100,000. There's 100,000 verses in the Mahabharata. So that's like how many verses are in the Bible? 27,000. Think.
Something like that.
The Mahabharata says it's like 11 Bibles long.
So there's like 4 Bibles in the Mahabharata itself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Only 4?
And so
Because I think the Ramayana is 4 Bibles and the Mahabharata is 11.
I don't think so because the Mahabharata's about 100,000 verses.
But the shlokas are.
So there's so much. But it's not a matter of getting all this knowledge. It's a matter of the spiritual goal. And Krishna really condemns these so-called Vedic knowledge. Next chapter we'll hear all about it. We'll hear about how Vyasadeva, even though he's composed all the Vedas, he knows all of it, he's dissatisfied. Where's the Bhagavad Gita? Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, he says, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one, O beloved child of the Kurus. Their intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So this verse is what inspired Prabhupada to come to America, because the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that one should take the spiritual master's order as life and soul. And then so he says, men of small knowledge are very much attracted to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So this is where Krishna is condemning the Vedas. Prabhupada's purport. People in general are not very intelligent. Due to their ignorance, they are most attached to fruitive activities recommended in the Karma Kanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying a life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to heavenly planets, especially the Jyotistoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices. So it goes on. And then Krishna says, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord doesn't take place. So being bewildered by the Vedas, the resolute determination to perform Krishna consciousness doesn't take place. Krishna says, the Vedas deal mainly with the subject matter of the 3 modes of nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these 3 modes. Be free from all dualities and anxieties for gain and safety. Be established in the self. This is the key verse here. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. That makes sense? So just like there's so many small wells of water, they can be served by a great reservoir. Similarly, all of the Vedas can be served, or all the purposes of the Vedas are served by one who knows the purpose behind them. What is the purpose of the Vedas? Adashta Sharvira Hameva Vedyo Vedanta Krita Veda Vedapacham. Krishna is the purpose behind the Vedas.
So you have to read 2 books.
Only one book, actually.
Yeah.
You don't even have to read any books. You just have to chant Hare Krishna, ultimately, really. If you love Krishna, you're already there, somehow or another. It's like we'll end with this and then we'll take prasadam. The story of Lord Chaitanya was going in South India and he met one Brahmana. And the Brahmana was reading Bhagavad Gita like this. And he was crying. Lord Chaitanya said, "Why are you crying?" He says, "My guru told me to read the Bhagavad Gita every day, but I can't read." And all the other Brahmins were making fun of him. This fool think he's reading Bhagavad Gita, he can't even read. He's trying to read it upside down. Lord Chaitanya said, "So why are you crying?" He said, "Because I see that Krishna's devotee, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has become the servant of his devotee, Arjuna, by becoming his chariot driver. And this brings me great ecstasy." And Lord Chaitanya said, he has really understood the Bhagavad Gita. And that's the essence, that Krishna wants to serve us and we want to serve Krishna. Krishna will become the servant of those who serve him with love. And that's the loving exchange between the living entity and God. That's the ultimate conclusion. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who was the greatest scholar of all time practically, he memorized every book he ever read. He can tell you what page it was on. I read it one time. Shrutidhar, perfect memory. He was a ray of Vishnu. His scholarship was so immense, but his guru couldn't even read. Why did he go to his guru? Not to learn all this stuff, but to develop devotion. Because by the time he was 18, he was already teaching in the royal courts. Prabhupada's spiritual master was so scholarly. But the essence is chanting the holy name. Bhakt Gaur Kishore Das Babaji would sit on the bank of the Ganges and chant. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta surrendered unto him. Shall we take prasadam? We're ready for these raviolis now.
I didn't get a chance to make too many.